Ladies and gentlemen, please rise up and welcome Kelley Robinson to the stage, our fearless leader at HRC.
All right, y'all. Wow. Oh my goodness, y'all. Thank you. Wow. Well, I'm still going to say it. My name is Kelley Robinson, and I'm proud to serve as president of the Human Rights Campaign. Yes. Y'all, let's hear it for Ambassador James Costas, y'all. James, I love you, I admire you, and it's a privilege to be in this fight alongside you. And I need us to do one thing. Let's give a raucous round of applause for everybody that made tonight possible, y'all. The dinner chairs, the steering committee, all of our volunteers, HRC staff that made tonight possible, the hotel workers, the tech people. Yes. Thank you for being here in Washington, D.C. This is our nation's capital, and we are showing up with pride, y'all. Look, it was just a few months ago that my wife and I welcomed our second child. Yes. And let me tell you, that little girl got me wrapped around her finger. But tonight, I'm proud to say I'm back, baby. And actually, when I get home tonight, I'll also say, I'm back, baby. You know, since I've been back, I've been crisscrossing this country with our team on the American Dreams Tour. Not to talk, but to listen, to bear witness, to hear our people speak their truth. I met a teacher who's living with HIV, and he told me that he had to choose paying for his next medication over paying for his next meal. I met a veteran who served this country for 17 years with honor, only to be denied the dignity of retiring in her uniform simply because she's trans. Y'all, I met an 80-year-old woman, a survivor of the Stonewall riots, who held my hand so tightly I could feel her bones shaking. And she whispered to me, "The only thing keeping me alive is knowing I won't have to live through much more of this." And I have to be honest with you. I have to be very honest with you tonight. It can be really hard to dream when we are living in a nightmare. These are not ordinary times, y'all. There's nothing ordinary about ICE raids ripping parents from their children on the way to school. Families belong together. There's nothing ordinary about slashing $3 billion from programs that keep our people alive. I'm talking about HIV prevention, mental health care, the 988 hotline. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves health. And there is certainly nothing ordinary about Kim Davis, who's been divorced 3 or 4 times, mind you, trying to get the Supreme Court to question my marriage and all same-sex marriages. Love is still love, y'all. You know, y'all, sometimes it feels like we're living in the twilight zone where the unthinkable has become routine. But I have to remind us that political violence should not be ordinary. Gun violence should not be ordinary. Anti-LGBTQ plus violence should not be ordinary, y'all. And it has only been 8 months. We are only 8 months into this new administration. And already, for the first time in decades, we are seeing a backslide on our rights. But I know this, these are serious times. These are serious times that require serious leadership. And if that leadership isn't going to come from the White House, it's going to come from people like us in rooms like this that are ready to fight for change, that won't give up on equality, that show up day after day. America has a choice to make. We can whimper and we can whine, or we can rise up and we can fight back. We can fight back and we can do it together, y'all. In this moment, y'all, we have got to summon some courage to choose hope anyway, to choose love anyway, to choose joy anyway, because the truth is that cowardice has shown itself to be contagious. But tonight, I came to remind you that courage is contagious too. That's why y'all showed up. That's why we're 2,500 people strong in this room tonight. That's why 98% of shareholders from our nation's largest companies have voted to shut down anti-DEI attacks over and over and over and over again. That's why those brave Texas Democrats walked out to protect democracy. That's why 1 in 3 of Generation Z is proudly LGBT, y'all. Courage is contagious. Tell your neighbor, courage is contagious. Come on, y'all. And look, that was new for some of you, I could see, okay. Welcome to the movement, my friends. And look, the courage that we choose today, it will shape the future that we leave behind. And that is what I've seen on this tour with my own eyes. I've seen it firsthand in folks like Tori from Las Vegas, who's in the room tonight. Tori is making sure that people know about HIV breakthroughs like long-acting injectables, even while the CDC fails us. I've seen it in leaders like Annie from Cincinnati, who is turning her church into a sanctuary so queer kids have safe, affirming spaces, even while politicians try to erase us. And I've seen it in folks like Adriana from South Florida, who's here tonight. She's doing work to build mutual aid networks so trans people can access the care that they need, even as the government tries to tear down their humanity. Courage is contagious. And every story I've heard on this American Dreams tour has reminded me of one undeniable fact. We are here and we are not going anywhere. You know, as the old folks used to say, we didn't come this far only to come this far, y'all. Because the courage I see today in our community, the courage that I see in this room, it's that same courage that has carried us for generations. It's the courage of Compton's Cafeteria. It's the courage of Stonewall. It's the courage of Selma. It's the courage of honorees like Amy Sherald, who's here tonight. It's the courage of my governor, Wes Moore, who's here tonight. So in times like this, I need us to remember that that courage is our birthright. And that same courage lives in all of our stories, and especially my family's. So my grandfather, his name was Albert. And shout out to my mama who's here tonight. My grandfather, Albert, he served in the United States Air Corps during World War II. And he wore that uniform like armor, like prayer, like promise, because that's exactly what it was. It represented America's promise. And this man, he was 100% committed to defending this country, even if it cost him his life. But here's the thing. My grandfather was a black man in Jim Crow America. He signed up to die for fellow citizens who would not even let him drink from the same water fountains. He fought to protect freedoms he knew he would never fully experience at home, and still he believed. He believed not in the America that was, but in the America that could be. And it's that belief that he passed down to my mother and ultimately to me. The promise that freedom is still worth fighting for. Freedom is still worth fighting for. I'll say it one more time. Freedom is still worth fighting for. And my friends, it's that same belief that Dr. King lifted up when he declared that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it always bends towards justice. And in rooms like this, we know it does not bend on its own. It bends because people like us are willing to push it and pull it and pry it and will it to do so. And I know this, that's exactly what lesbian, gay, bi, and trans and queer people have always done. We have bent this arc towards justice even when the world told us not to. So hear this. When I say this is our country, I'm saying it with my whole chest. This is our country. This is our country. This country has already been bought and paid for, boo. With our courage, with our brilliance, with our grace and our grit. Y'all, my grandfather paid for the promise of this country when he served in uniform. We have paid in marches and in vigils, in court cases and classroom battles, in funerals and freedom songs. This is our inheritance. It's not political, it's personal. This is our damn country too. This is our country. So what brings me hope is that there's not a doubt in my mind, HRC, that we were made for this moment. And that's why we are here today, standing 3.6 million members strong. Yes, we are. And even amidst all of the hate and backlash, in just the last year, 500,000 new people have raised their hand to join us in this movement and in this fight. So our job now is to put all of that power into action because there are some hard truths in front of us. The truth is that the courts alone will not save us. The truth is no single election is going to save us. The truth is that showing up to one march won't do it either. This is a time in our movement where we've got to dig deep. It's a time where we've got to have both motivation and stamina. And look, I've seen some of y'all at drag brunches. I know you've got stamina, all right? Don't play games with me. This fight that we're in, it calls for steady hands and steadfast hearts. Because if we are going to do the work of saving lives, of salvaging rights, we can't be out here organizing like it's 1999. We got to meet the moment. So here's our strategy. We are going to make sure our kids are safe in classrooms, full stop and period. Our Welcoming Schools program this year is going to train over 27,000 educators. And what that means is that more than 1.6 million students will walk into classrooms that see them, value them, and protect them. That is the work. And we're also partnering with companies to make sure that 13 million workers get the fairness and dignity that they deserve every single day of the week. And we are going to make change in policy and politics too, because that's how democracy is supposed to work, y'all. Is anybody ready to take back a pro-equality majority in Congress in 2026? Is anybody ready to elect out and proud leaders like Julie Johnson that's here tonight, and Emily Randall, and Angie Craig, and Chris Pappas, and Mark Takano, and HRC alum Sarah McBride? We are going to support members who are running from the school board to Congress and everywhere in between. My friends, all of the change that we seek, it is within reach, but we need you. And look, I know that these times are hard. I know that the fights that we're in weren't fights that we started. But I also know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. And we might not start a fight, but we sure as hell know how to finish one. Anybody with me? Come on. Now is the time, my friends. Now is the time to double down on equality. So I'm asking you, if you've never shared your story, now's the time to say it loud and proud. I'm asking you, if you knocked on 10 doors last election, knock on 100 doors next year. I'm asking you, if you donate $30 a year to HRC, make it $30 a month and make that commitment today. Ask your company to go from a silver to a gold sponsor, a gold to a platinum. Whatever you do, invest in our community. Invest in us. Because I believe that every seed we plant turns backlash into breakthrough. I believe that every act of courage can turn despair into determination. Does somebody hear me? I believe that every dollar we raise brings us one step closer to equality, because the truth is, freedom already belongs to us, HRC. We just got to claim it. So, y'all, look, I get so excited, I'm about to sweat my whole face off, so I need to wrap it up. But I want to say this. I mentioned earlier that my wife and I, hey, Becky George. I mentioned earlier that my wife and I welcomed our baby girl into our lives this year. And I got to say, between her and her big brother, they are the sun and the moon and the stars and everything in between. And when I look in their eyes, I feel the acute weight of this moment. I want to be my very best for them, because I know that one day our kids are going to ask us in this moment, when freedom was on the line, when families were under attack, when their futures hung in the balance, what did we do? And as my mentor, Cecile Richards, reminded me, I need to be able to tell them and tell them with pride that we did everything that we could, everything that we could. That we didn't wait for change to come, but we fought for it. That we didn't wait for justice, we demanded it. That we didn't accept defeat, but we turned the tide of history together. So that's why we have to stay in this fight, and we've got to stay in it as long as we can. This is a moment that's not just about dreaming of a better tomorrow, it's putting our hands to work to build it ourselves. This is a moment where we've got to call each other in more than we call each other out. Because I truly believe that if we stand together, if we fight together, that one day soon, we will be more familiar with joy than we are with grief. I believe that one day soon, we will feel just as safe surrounded by the American flag as we do when we are surrounded by pride flags. I believe that one day soon, our children won't just dream about the promise of freedom, they will have it. That means that today we've got to make a choice. We've got to choose hope anyway. We've got to choose love anyway. We got to choose joy. Somebody say joy. Somebody say joy. We got to choose it anyway, so let's do the work, HRC. Let's put in the work, HRC, and let's get free.